I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of the Revelation, chapter 21, so let's focus on verse 1. And then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea existed no longer. Revelation 21, verse 1. The Bible depicts the creation story with conflict. For instance, light conquers darkness. Consider John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created through Him, and apart from Him, not one thing was created that has been created. Life was in Him, and that life was the light of men. That light shines in the darkness, and yet the darkness did not overcome it. But the sea also is allied with the darkness. Therefore, the sea had to be contained and limited. And this is done on the second day of creation in Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 through 10. Now consider God's statement to Job in Job 38, verses 8 through 11. Who enclosed the sea behind doors when it burst from the womb? When I made the clouds its thick garment, darkness its blanket, when I determined its boundaries and put its bars and doors in place, when I declared, you may come this far, but no further. Your proud waves stop here. So the image of the sea is active in bringing destruction and death through the flood of Noah. It was an event that was mentioned 5 times in the New Testament. But the sea is under God's control, as clearly seen in the Exodus, where God's strong hand and His outstretched arm turned the Red Sea into a means of salvation for the Israelites. God also used that very same sea as a means of destruction for the Egyptians. Furthermore, Isaiah prophesies that God's vindication of Israel when He defeats a great demonic sea beast. Check this out, Isaiah 27, verse 1. He says, on that day, the Lord with His harsh and great strong wind will bring judgment on Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, the twisting serpent. He will slay the monster that is in the sea. Now, because the Bible speaks so much about judgment by the sea, a Jewish superstition actually arose that claimed that evil spirits lived at the bottom of deep bodies of water. And to the average Jewish person, when Noah's flood receded, those eternal evil spirits of the generation which were judged by God in the flood, well, they believed that they rested like dregs at the bottom of the deep. And the same was assumed for Pharaoh and his armies and their souls. They still rested at the bottom of the Red Sea. And it is possibly why the disciples thought that Jesus was a ghost when He came walking to them on the water. It is perhaps why demons who were begging for Jesus to cast them into pigs, and once He did so, that they ran into the Sea of Galilee. And that action no doubt reinforced the superstition, even among Jesus' disciples, that evil spirits live at the bottom of deep bodies of water. Well, today's chapter indicates that in the new heaven and the new earth, just as there is no darkness for the light to compete with, neither do such deep waters exist. It's not that there's not water, it's just that those seas of judgment are no longer there. The point is that both creation and mankind will again be at peace with each other and with God. And wouldn't you love to be there when it happens? Because otherwise, you could be cast out into utter darkness where there's just weeping and gnashing of teeth. And yet salvation is offered to you if you would turn from your sin and receive it. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.